studio on 101 ESPN.
Oh, boy, we've got meaningful baseball tonight, don't we? How about that? Fresh off of sweeping the Giants. Braves coming to town. I don't want to alarm you, but the Braves have the best record in baseball since National Weed Your Garden Day. Facts only. Facts only when we're filling in for Tim. We bring you the facts. And the facts are, while the Cardinals are the hottest team in baseball, arguably the best team in baseball since Mother's Day, in a more micro sense, the Braves are 8-2 since National Weed Your Garden Day.
Is that why they're raking?
Waka waka. Welcome in, everybody. I don't know that we can top that. I think I'm just going to leave. Look, it's all downhill from that. That was like the apex of what we're doing here. I can't top it. I'll try. I guess that's good, though. It gives you something to shoot for. You know, a lot of times it's good to have goals that you can't achieve because you keep shooting for the moon. So, I don't know what to tell you. The best thing I've seen today is that I just realized that this picture of Jamie Rivers on our website looks like Vigo the Carpathian from Ghostbusters 2. Me lord. I love Jamie because he's cool and all that. This picture, it looks like he's going to murder somebody. Mm-hmm. They weren't like, hey, let's try to find a picture where he doesn't look like he's going to F someone up.
It doesn't exist.
It's like,
the picture does not
drink
exist.
Stella Artois, I'll F and kill you.
The picture doesn't exist.
I don't know. He's got crazy eyes.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, would hit. Don't get me wrong.
He's kind of got a little Danny Trejo in him.
He's got a crazy.
There's a crazy quality, but again, like you're saying though, there's an attraction to it.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I get it.
You can't lie.
But it's like crazy chicks, right? Like you see crazy chicks and they got crazy eyes, and you're like, you know what? I'm down. It's like when you watch Britney Spears on the gram. Like, dude, I used to be obsessed with Britney Spears videos. Now everybody's kind of into them, or at least they found them now. So it's not as cool to me. I'm kind of a hipster as it relates to...
Perez Hilton gave us all the right to like her again.
Yeah, that's true. Although her fans are lunatics. But really, fans of any group are lunatics, really. Anybody who's obsessed with a celebrity of any sort is probably a lunatic. But when you watch, the videos of Britney on the gram a couple years ago, like when she was initially doing them, when she had the little shorts on, and she would just twirl, and you're like, that's fun. She's crazy.
Give me one example of an annoying fan base that isn't dating an NFL star. Go.
Well, Beyonce. Oh, dude, her fans are nuts. Dude,
I didn't know if you were going to walk into that.
Caitlin Clark.
Right into the minefield. Good for you.
Look, I know crazy fan bases. I am well aware of
what
crazy...
What about Louisiana has crazy fan bases?
All of them. They're lunatics. LSU people are crazy people. They're nuts, man. But anyway, so didn't look like too many people went out to the ball game yesterday. It looked very similar to the crowd when I went a couple weekends ago. I went on a Saturday afternoon against Colorado, and you could have shot a cannon through a bunch of different sections of the stadium and hit nobody. And yesterday, I'm watching the game, and I'm looking at the outfield bleachers. I mean, it is sparse. And when I come in here and fill in for Tim, and I appreciate the opportunity to do it, I try to kind of understand or grasp what the pulse of the people in St. Louis is, how the people are feeling. Now, understand, I will tell you how I feel because I am a diehard Cardinals fan, but I think I view things a lot differently than a lot of other people do. There are the people on social media who, when the Cardinals lose a game, they're the worst team ever, and when they win a game, they're the greatest team ever. Those people are lunatics. They are bipolar crazy people, and we see them all the time. There are some people who are a little bit more level-headed. There are some people who the Cardinals could win 15 games in a row and they wouldn't care. I'm somewhere in the middle of all of this. But I still don't believe, despite the fact the Cardinals are the greatest team in baseball since Mother's Day, I just don't think people care. And you can tell me if I'm wrong. I'd love to have a conversation with people via the text, or you can comment in the YouTube. I don't think people care. And I think it's because this organization is so far gone over the last 2+ years. What was our record going into the weekend? 108 and 128 since the end of 2022. I think people are just at a point where it's going to take a lot more than playing a good month of baseball, and it's going to take a lot more than sweeping the crappy Giants to get people reignited, to get the fire reignited for the Cardinals. Because, again, I see people commenting, it was hot. Let me tell you something. If the Cardinals were a really good team, the heat wouldn't matter. Dudes would be out there with their shirts off, pouring water on themselves. The heat, do not give me it was hot. Loser fan bases tell me it's hot, and that's why you don't go. That's not the reason the ballpark is empty, because it wasn't hot 2 weeks ago when they played Colorado, and the ballpark was half empty that weekend too. Spare me. People are not interested. And by the way, I do not blame you. I am not interested. I took the job here basically so I could go to Cardinals games whenever I wanted, because my boyhood dream was to be able to go to Busch Stadium every day of my life and watch the Cardinals. That was my dream, okay? My dream. But now I have no desire to go. Hi, guys. Look at him. Look at him. Learn messing with me, and so is my man over there. Everybody's messing with us. I tell you what, look, thanks to Learn for taking that job. See, that it works out. Learn took the job on the Riz Show. It opened up a job on Keishi. I come over here. I'm thinking I'm going to go to every Cardinal game ever. I've been to like 10 in the last 2 years. This year I've been to 1.
Good experience?
That was fine. The tickets were really cheap. Yeah. And I was sitting in section 250 right below the broadcast booth on the club level. Got those tickets for $20. It's very nice. But point being in all of this is I have ample opportunity, and I have the money to do it, not to brag. Trust me, I've gambled away most of my money, but I do have the money to go buy cheap tickets and go downtown as often as I'd like.
$6 tickets sometimes.
Let me tell you something, buddy. I can do it. But I think most people are in a situation where they're just not interested. And part of it is, it goes back to something that was discussed a couple of, I guess last year maybe even, and it was the conversation about whether or not Cardinals fans are spoiled. And the obvious answer is yes, of course we are. The Cardinals had, for basically the first 15 years of this century, the Cardinals were on the Mount Rushmore of well-run organizations and successful organizations, going to 4 World Series, winning 2. Like, you can sit there and argue with me like a lot of people try to do with Randy about, the spoiled. We're spoiled. Hardcore spoiled. We lived a glamorous life. And really, I'd go so far as to say that we as baseball fans here have lived a glamorous life since 1996. Playoffs in La Russa's first year, and the first year of the new ownership group. After that, it's McGuire. After that, it's this ridiculous run of playoff success and 2 World Series championships, 4 appearances. Albert Pujols, we get to watch one of the 2 or 3 greatest hitters of this generation play on a nightly basis for a decade. 100%. We have been spoiled. And when you have that kind of success, it's hard to top that and keep people interested. And at this very moment, despite the fact the Cardinals are the best team in baseball since Mother's Day, the place is half empty still. And why is the place half empty? Because people don't care. And look, I'm enjoying watching the young guys play. I agree with Randy and Brooke. They were talking about it this morning. I'm enjoying Burleson. He's come on like a wild man. I like watching Donovan play. I like watching Wynn play. I like watching Gorman. When Gorman is on, he's fun to watch hit. So I'm not telling you that there's not stuff that's interesting about them. The problem is, it's going to take a lot more than a good month of baseball to make me get my fat ass out of the couch and go downtown to go watch the Cardinals. And when I see the attendance the way it is right now, I feel good because I know that I'm not alone in this. Other people feel this same thing. Now, if you go to social media where people are the most outlandish, they're the diehard wacky people, they're different. But most people, the average Joe who has disposable income and time to burn, has to make a choice. And with all the issues that downtown St. Louis has, if the Cardinals were good and interesting and fun and a legit contender, people would go. Like last time I checked, people were filling up the ballpark 5-6 years ago. Downtown St. Louis sucked then too. Downtown St. Louis, fun fact, hasn't been a real glamorous place for about 2 decades, even longer than that. So the idea that, well, you know, it's dangerous to go downtown. It's always been dangerous to go downtown. We have one of the worst downtowns in the country for crime. Of course it's dangerous down there. It's always been dangerous. Oh, but it was hot yesterday. It's St. Louis, and it's June, July, August. It's balls hot here, and that's happened since the beginning of time. So the issue isn't any of those things. The issue is that the team just isn't interesting to people. And I don't know what it's going to take. Maybe that's the question. What is it going to take for people to be interested in them again? Because I like to make fun of the Mother's Day thing. This is the best stretch of baseball the Cardinals have played since the end of 2022. That's facts. This is the best stretch of baseball they've had. And they've played pretty good baseball in a lot of that. But for the most part, they're a boring baseball team, and people don't believe in them. I think they dislike the manager, which is fair, and I think they are tired of the ownership group, and they certainly hate the general manager. And that's why, despite the fact the Cardinals were going for a sweep yesterday, despite the fact they are now only 5 games out of first, despite the fact they are firmly in the wild card race, despite the fact that they are starting to hit now, despite the fact they've got some young, talented guys, despite all those things, people are not going to the ballpark. And it ain't because the tickets are too expensive. As I told you, I sat in the club level for like $20 a ticket. That's right behind home plate, arguably the greatest seat you can have. So that's what I'm asking you today. Now, you can text. All right, feel free, 314-399-9646, the Air Comfort Service text line. Text in. We can also get your comments on YouTube. I'm genuinely curious as we sit here in the midst of the greatest run maybe in the history of baseball from Mother's Day to this point, in the history of baseball, the Cardinals have been on. They have owned this stretch from Mother's Day to now, other than the Braves, who are 8-2 since National Weed Your Garden Day. They're hotter than the Cardinals. Technically, they're hotter than the Cardinals. So, I mean, worlds are going to collide. It's going to be wild. But you would think with the Braves who have a big fan base, Cardinals playing the best baseball they've played in 2 years. What kind of attendance? Summer, school's out, all that. Monday night at Busch Stadium, are you going to be able to shoot a cannon through the ballpark and not hit anybody? Because that's the way it was yesterday on a Sunday. But, Judge, it's hot. Yeah, if the Cardinals were worth watching, you'd brave the heat. You suffer heat stroke for a good baseball team. Ask the Chiefs dweebs that went out and got themselves frostbitten to go watch a playoff game. People don't care about the weather if the team is good. And at this moment, they're playing well, but people are just fatigued of the organization. And I want to know from you, and you can text in, and we'll read a bunch of texts in the next segment because I want your thoughts on this, all right? So text in 314-399-9646. Why is it that your interest level is not going back up for the Cardinals? Why are you still middling? Or maybe you're not. Maybe you're a diehard. Maybe you're like, oh, my God, I'm going to every game. Maybe you're not even remotely interested. Where do you stand right now, kind of a State of the Union thing with the fan base of the Cardinals? Because watching that game yesterday, Cardinals are in the midst of the hottest streak they've been on. Ain't nobody going to the games and nobody cares. Also, thanks to Willie for saying that Josh is the best Lance Lynn cosplay I've seen yet. You gotta get in there. You gotta adjust the pants a little bit. I think I saw someone say something about Lance Lynn once about why he's always pulling up his pants, and they're like, because he keeps his pitch comm under his gut. I was like, touche. I like that. All right, we'll get to your text next. It's 101 ESPN. my girl Angel Reese beat up on Caitlin Clark yesterday. That brings me joy.
A 24-point performance from Kennedy Carter over the weekend as well.
That?
I thought she wasn't a scorer. I thought she was just an
assaulter,
just Charles Oakley incarnate.
Yeah. I'm not going to go into a full-on breakdown of the WNBA because I don't hate myself or all of you people that much. But as you know, wouldn't that be something? We go a full hour.
I would laugh for the whole time.
But not like, like the ESPN version of it, which is just a race war between these two people and a political war between right-wing and left-wing people because one side has adopted the white girl, one's adopted the black chick, and they're fighting each other.
Adjusted of the sky against what we've seen. The best three-point defense in the league is the Las Vegas Aces, Josh. Like we actually did that. That'd be amazing.
Oh, God. That'll be for tomorrow. But we're not even going to bring it. We're just going to go straight into it. And then we're going to do 10 minutes of soccer talk for you. Yes. But not even about St. Louis SC. We're going to do it over like Copa.
Okay.
We're going to break down Copa and the Euros.
I'm really mad. My rankles are up.
Yeah. That's going to get you going, man. I tell you. Boy, women's basketball is bad, though. I mean, it's dreadful.
We have too many Cardinals texts.
We're gonna get to them, but women's basketball is so tough. I have nothing against it existing, but my God, it's terrible, man. It's just rough to watch. Like watching, I'm not gonna look. You guys know women's basketball sucks. You're well aware. I don't need to break it down for you. But I do love Angel Reese because she's fire. There's one thing I will say this. Okay, and then I'm done with women's basketball talk because I got text to read about why people aren't interested in the Cardinals. Okay, I'm going to read them. However, I will say this. One of the things that people say about, which side is this? I forgot. Okay, this would be the liberal and black commentator side when talking about Caitlin Clark. They say that she has got pretty girl-like privilege. Ask any man if Caitlin Clark is attractive to a man, they will say no. And there's nothing, by the way, I feel comfortable saying this because I didn't bring up her looks. The women, because women hate other women, women brought up her looks. Therefore, I feel I have to respond with some honesty, which is no one views a woman that looks like Screech to be attractive.
I just want to point it out that one of the people who brought up that it's easier to be a more feminine woman in the NBA is Cameron Brink before she tore her ACL.
And she is fragile, apparently. Her knee is destroyed.
Her knee is destroyed.
She's also 11 feet tall. That's probably, she's a giraffe.
That's actually just the dimensions of her legs.
Yeah, they're 11 feet long.
That's just her legs. She was the one who actually brought up the point about there being a privilege for attractive women in the WNBA. Because she hates
herself because she's white, so she feels like she has to say these things. Like,
she's also,
by the way, there's a privilege for anybody who's pretty.
She's also humble bragging a little bit too.
Yeah. She's like, hey, by the way, I'm hot, but like I understand that I have advantages because I'm hot.
I respect the fact that she said it because there are some people who would try to like beat around the bush and be like, no, it's just basketball.
Yeah.
But no, it's not, though.
Well, to be fair, pretty people have an advantage in everything.
That's true.
Not just women's basketball, or good-looking people have an advantage in everything in life.
You ready for this one? You ready for this?
Well, okay, what?
Pretty much every study across elections in America says that you get more votes on average if your face is more symmetrical than the other person. That's
because people like attractive people.
And that is from like mayoral races all the way up to presidential races. People with more symmetrical faces get more votes because you feel more comfortable with them.
Yeah.
Because they're more attractive.
Then how do either of the people who are running for president get any votes? Their faces are melting. Like they're not symmetrical. They're falling.
I'm just saying,
dripping.
It's a study I read a couple weeks ago.
But yeah, big breaking news there. Good-looking people have advantages in the world. Like, I don't hate good-looking people. You know who hates good-looking people? Unattractive women. That's who hates good-looking people. Have you ever met a man who hates another good-looking man?
It's called the incel movement. There's a lot of unattractive men who hate anyone who's attractive.
Those people are losers.
Yes, exactly.
Incels are losers.
Exactly.
We know this. I admire people who are good looking. Like when I see like George Clooney on a magazine, I don't say to myself, it's not right that a good looking person's on here because us ugly people don't have representation. I say, I wish I looked like that guy. I admire him. He has had sex with Stacy Keibler.
I learned a lesson about humanity and myself when I saw Gerard Butler in Phantom of the Opera.
See? There you go.
Just saying.
Yeah, that's it. If you take nothing else from this, that
was a moment for me.
Gerard Butler has made has made Rock question his sexuality, and there's nothing wrong with that. We are fluid.
By the
when
way,
we fill in for Tim, we are fluid.
By the way, if anyone out there is saying, well, that's weird, you're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Troy Butler's a very handsome guy, and he's got an accent.
Phantom of the Opera, are you kidding me? He hits that note. My God. It's going to be time. You want to read some text?
Oh, about people and their disinterest in the Cardinals?
Yeah, certainly that, please. Let's go with 636. I think a lack of interest in the Cardinals is linked to the TV deal. If you can't watch the team regularly, there's less interest in going to the game because you're not keeping up with the team, especially when it's then perceived as a mediocre product.
I disagree with that because if the Cardinals were good, I don't know that the TV thing would be as big of an issue. I'm not saying that it's not part of the problem, but I don't believe it's as big of a deal as some may make it out to be. I don't buy that. So, if the Cardinals were good, people would be interested. Again, I'll give you my main reason. I think people hate the general manager and hate the manager.
Well, let me go find.
And the team's not good.
I'm going to go find a disconnect with the ownership text here in a moment. But we got this from 636. I still watch the Cardinals most nights on TV, but for me, it's two things. It's somewhat of a hassle to go to the ballpark, and more importantly, I don't feel like they have a bona fide star like McGuire, Pujols, etc. I am a huge Arenado fan and would simply pay to watch him play defense in his prime, but the fall off this year makes it hard for me to watch.
I think that's all well said. As I said earlier, I have every capability of going to any Cardinals game I want to. I don't find them interesting enough to take the time out of the day. Because for me to go downtown, I'm not going to drive down there. I'll end up parking at one of the train stations. I'll take the train down to the ballpark because it's cheaper than parking. And I'll do that, and I'll buy some beers. I'll do that. I just don't have the interest in eating up the time. Like, I was going to go on Saturday, and I just said, no. Like, my wife wanted to go. I said, you know what, Jilly? No, we're not going.
Here we go from 314. I refuse to support Cardinals management. I want them to clean house, GM, assistant GM, manager. Get them out of there. Change the culture. Until then, I will support organizations like the Blues, Battlehawks, and SC. I've seen my high school baseball team play more than the Cardinals the last few years.
Yeah, well, anybody who's like, I like when people use the Battlehawks as some sort of like, I support the Battle. They'll be gone in like a year, guys. Like, they're a spite team, and I get that everybody's into it because of the spite angle, and I'm with you. We should have the NFL here. There's no reason we shouldn't. But I just like when people like lump themselves as Battlehawks fans for a team that's almost not even a real team. So whatever, that's fine.
If I think about the Cardinals like I think about a girlfriend, the past 3 years have been very toxic. They have been great the last month, but I'm still trying to figure out if they're just leading me on or not. And also, I cannot stand her father, John.
Well. You also date really horrible women, it sounds like. What a bitch. God, I tell you what, you've got a bad woman. Look, we've all been there before. I had a girlfriend who I started dating. She had, like, if it's possible to have -A cups, I think she had them. Like, my breasts are bigger than this girl's were. And she was really self-conscious about that.
That's always a bad beat.
That's why things really went south when I said, it's okay, they're cute. And that was probably the beginning of the end. However, she got a boob job and then broke up with me. So I know, I mean, literally, like she stayed at my house after she got the boob job. Let me tell you, friend.
Did you know?
We're talking about toxic relationships.
Did you know it was coming?
I mean, like, things weren't going well.
Yeah.
But I thought that maybe, the boob job would increase her self-esteem and all that.
Yeah,
and it did. It turns out the second we broke up, she had a new boyfriend, and they had months of pictures that were on Facebook together.
Oh.
And in my garbage can, I found a dip cup in my garbage can.
No.
I don't know if you knew this about me, but I'm not Yosemite Sam, and I don't dip. So that wasn't mine.
That's a bad beat. That's
So I know about toxic relationships. And then when you got the owners come out and they're basically combative. Here's what I love about the Cardinals. They feel sorry for themselves when they're losing because people are mean to them. And then the second they win a couple, they have this weird cockiness about them. Like, see? Told you that Burleson was going to be great. Oh, but people like I hate John Mozeliak. I hate the ownership, and you know what? I hate Ollie Marmol as well, just because he's the front man for this garbage. So I do. I just like look. Are we venting here? Are we talking about why we're uninterested in the Cardinals, despite the fact they've won all these games? I don't like these people. That's all. And they don't like us. They are openly confrontational with the fan base now. Screw them.
Speaking of which, tell me you're too cheap. Tell me you're rebuilding, but don't pee on my back and tell me it's raining. #FireMo.
Yeah. Well. The other thing, God, I heard Randy say something about Goldschmidt earlier. He goes, "Well, if they bring back Goldschmidt next year, I say we riot."
I mean, it's coming. Like it's going to happen.
And here's another hot take, and I've said
the
this
inevitable
before.
heat death of the universe, and the Cardinals giving a future Hall of Famer one more contract wait a little, like 1 year too long. It's things just like are going to happen in the world.
Look, and I know there are a lot of people that disagree with this. There are some guys who are all-time greats for a franchise, right? Like Pujols is an all-time great Cardinal. Stan Musial is an all-time great Cardinal. Ozzie Smith is an all-time great Cardinal. Go down the list. There are guys that you associate with. I associate Jim Edmonds with the Cardinals because he was great when he was with the Cardinals. And he played for basically the entire National League Central before he retired. But I view him as a Cardinal. I don't view him as an Angel. I view him as a Cardinal. I don't feel that way about Arenado or Goldschmidt. Like, those are two guys who in their prime, when they were producing, were legitimate great players. But I don't view either one of them as all-time great Cardinals. And maybe I'm alone on this, but like in 20 years, I'm not going to look back and go, boy, I sure do miss the Goldschmidt era. Like, it's forgettable. So, like, and part of it's his fault. We talked about that the other day. Who had the opportunity in the playoffs in 2022? You're playing the Phillies. You know who didn't show up? Goldschmidt or Arenado. I don't know. Like, it's so bizarre because if you told me 7-8 years ago that there'd come a stretch when you would have Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt on the same baseball team in St. Louis, I'd tell you, holy cow, it's the next great generation of the Cardinals. And when they made those moves, there was nothing wrong with those moves. And for the most part, it hasn't been a disaster. I mean, they've been to the playoffs a couple times. I mean, there's been some fine things. But when you compare it to, and maybe this is unfair, but when you compare it to the Albert Pujols era and Jim Edmonds and MV3 and all that and La Russa, it just doesn't register for me. Now, what are you laughing at, you goober?
931. Guys, I swear to God, if they sign one more player past their prime, I'm out. I'm done. Where were you like the last 7? Like what have you been waiting for there, champ?
Yeah. God, but if they were to re-sign Goldschmidt,
it's like it's happening. It's
why?
It's happening because they like having the
thing
name.
is, it's not like
because there's the DH
but
spot.
no one's going to the ball.
Because the DH spot exists. That's why.
But all that. But no one's going to the ballpark to see Paul Goldschmidt. Like, people went to the ballpark when they re-signed Albert Pujols. People would have gone to the ballpark even if he wasn't good to say they saw Albert Pujols. Nobody's going to the ballpark to go like, God, I got to get my kid to see Paul Goldschmidt before he retires. No one cares about Paul Goldschmidt, and Arenado's a bum right now. If
Goldschmidt's costing Burleson and Contreras at bats next year, I'd be pretty. Dude, it would make me mad.
I would be so much more into this team if I didn't have to watch Arenado and Goldschmidt play. And Goldschmidt's been, I know people, he's getting hot. And basically, he's a guy that comes out and he'll hit a home run every now and then hit a bunch of singles. Fine. But Arenado's been a dud. Like, if it were just a full-on youth movement with guys like Contreras still in there, because Contreras has played well. If you eliminated Arenado and Goldschmidt, I'd be like, hey, they're 2 games over 500, and they are, they're young, and we got a lot of upside. The problem is the Cardinals are a middling team that's built like a team that should be good. That's the problem. They're built like when you've got 2 potential future Hall of Famers that are not totally past their prime. They're not 40 years old. When you've got 2 guys that are like that, you're supposed to be a team that's a contender, not a team that's 2 games over 500. And we're celebrating this, by the way. People are celebrating being 2 games over 500. That's how far it's fallen. So if it were just a bunch of young guys and we were seeing Wynn and Burleson and Donovan and Gorman and somehow Walker, maybe he is eventually good, and you're watching this young group of guys, and they're 2 games over 500, I'd go, okay, yeah, this is fun. But a team, when you went out in the offseason and you signed Lance Lynn, who's old, and you went out and signed Gibbs, you signed all the guys you did, and you've got 2 guys in the corner of the infield who are potential future Hall of Famers, I can't get excited about 2 games over 500. Don't do it for me. All right, we'll get to more of your texts and other stuff after this on 101 ESPN.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Cardinals start a series against the Braves tonight, 6:45 first pitch. Lance Lynn will be on the bump for the Cardinals. Over the weekend, you had St. Louis City SC back in action. It was another draw on the season, their 10th draw of the year. It was a 1-1 tie against Atlanta United FC, and you can catch Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. It is the Oilers and the Panthers tonight. Winner take all. You can catch it right here on 101 ESPN. Pregame starts at 6:30. And a little NBA news here in the Action Jackson Memorial NBA update. The Cleveland Cavaliers are hiring Golden State Warriors assistant Kenny Atkinson as head coach. That is your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
ESPN.
See that Oliver Marmol said that he's had racial slurs thrown at him at Cardinals games before? Now, in full disclosure, I didn't read the entire story because I refused to pay money to read the newspaper because I'm not 80. So I don't have access to the Post-Dispatch website, so I only saw the headline. And the headline was that Oliver Marmol has had racial slurs thrown at him at ball games. In the context of, well, let's talk about how Reggie Jackson, during the stuff at Rickwood and all that. And I saw that it was Hockman that wrote the story. Yeah. And full disclosure, I have not read the full story. That's why I'm kind of hashing this out and asking you questions right now because I don't know the answers. But if somebody says that racial slurs were thrown at them, that's a pretty heavy accusation, right? Because it makes an entire fan base look bad, right? Like whenever those people protested the the Guard Indians games before they became the Guardians, they would protest on opening day and they would get in the face of anybody wearing Indians gear and then basically force them to respond. And then you would only see their responses on the internet. And you're like, oh my God, Indians people are racist psychopaths, right? Blah, blah, blah. But if someone, and I tell you that to say this, it makes a fan base look bad and people judge that fan base more because of that. And the Cardinals do have somewhat of a reputation for that. Not a ton, but you hear stories about it, right? I'm not judging the fan base, but I don't know. But if somebody is telling a story and telling you that at the ball game, they had racial slurs thrown at them, the natural follow-up to this would be, okay, when did this happen? What were the slurs, etc.? I did not read the story because, again, you know how much it costs to have the newspaper every month online, by the way? So from what I saw, I was going to do it. I was like, oh, fine, I'll just get the damn newspaper. It's $1 for 26 weeks, and then after that, it's $15 a month to read the Post-Dispatch. A newspaper. Who reads newspapers? So I couldn't get myself to do it. So I don't have the answer. But was there a follow-up? Did you read that story, Rock? Did you see if there was a follow-up? Like, hey, when did this happen? Like, I'm legitimately asking. Because that's a pretty heavy accusation to throw against a fan base is all.
I can read from the story right now. If you,
boy, look at us. We're cheating the system. We're gaming the system. Hey,
I'm not
for doing this, I'm going to give you my Netflix password.
Right, there we go.
That's fine.
Nice. So consider this. He's referring to the moment from Reggie Jackson, and these are vital lessons to be learned in the present. Consider that in 2024, some Cardinals fans have yelled racial slurs directly to Cardinals manager Oliver Marmol. No doubt about it, Marmol said Saturday, more than you would think. He continues, now Marmol didn't bring up this topic on his own. He only responded when I asked him about Jackson's comments on racism, spewed his direction in Alabama, quote unquote. I've been called that here, like different words that I won't repeat publicly, but not that far removed. To hear him recalling some of these things that he's been through, I think is really good for people to kind of understand it and shed light on it, because sometimes you're a fan of the team and the sport and you get into what's going on, you forget that people are still yelling at actual people. To learn that some fans are saying these things of Marmol is disgusting and embarrassing. If only they would truly know what it's like to be on the other side of racism. Well, Jackson gave us a glimpse with his searing descriptions. Then it goes on to explain Reggie Jackson's comments.
I feel like what Reggie Jackson endured in the 1960s and 50s in Jim Crow South is probably a little bit heavier than anything Oliver Marmol has dealt with from Cardinals fans at a ball game. Again, I don't know, but the follow-up would, like, to me, if you're going to throw something out and you're going to call a fan base, essentially say that there's a bunch of racist people at ball games, like, I kind of need more details, because in 2024, arguably the worst thing you could be is racist. That's like the thing that gets everybody canceled, right? So I'd like to get a little bit more details on that. You know, when you read a headline and it's like, Cardinals fans have called Oliver Marmol racial slurs, like... And I only bring this up because I saw the guy who wrote the story, Ben Hochman, arguing with people on social media who said they don't believe it. Now, I don't know if it happened or not. Is it plausible? Sure, it's possible that somebody could throw out racial slurs. However, I believe if somebody is throwing out terrible, egregious racial slurs audibly to the point that the manager can hear it, that means other people would have heard this. And, like, it would have been a story. Or there would have been something that would have come about. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, I'm skeptical of everything. I don't trust media people. Now I'm going to sound like a weird QAnon person here, but, like, I hate the media. I don't trust them. I don't like Fox News. I don't like CNN. I don't like Rachel Maddow. I don't like Dan Rather. I don't like the news. I don't trust news. If you want to go down this really deep, like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but the reality is news people have biases. We all do. Rocky O is a fan of City. So everything he says about City is done through the lens of being a fan. And whether you want to admit you have a bias or not, everybody does. So how do we pick and choose who we trust to give us information?
How dare you?
But you know what the main objective is of a news outlet is still to generate revenue. So how can you trust anybody when money is involved? Or when biases are involved.
Because the wall between who's making the money is and who's telling the truth.
News should, okay, this is deeper.
No, I'm
news
just saying,
should not be a for-profit business, in my opinion.
You're right, but I'm saying in this specific example, because I agree. If you ever want to figure out something and try to and peel away the layers, following the money will always help you peel away the layers. Mm-hmm. My point here is that the money and the burden of truth is on two separate sides of the wall here. The money that we're saying is in the journalism side. Yeah. The burden of truth is on the person being interviewed by the journalist. So, like, Marmol can't make money from this story getting big.
But
is my point.
But the person writing the story has a bias, and they go into that story with this idea that, oh, this is disgusting that this still happens. I don't know that it happened. Now, what incentive does he have to lie? He doesn't, for the most part. But point being in all of this is I just have a great distrust for anything news related. So I and the follow, like, I would want more details on that than just guy flippantly kind of goes, well, I've been called racial slurs. Well, that's where I would go, hit the brakes. I'm asking 5 follow-ups to this. And he doesn't have to answer them. Yeah, but I mean, if you're going to print that and you're going to go with it and you know that it's going to impact the way your consumers are viewed, right? Because people are going to look at that and go, oh, typical Cardinals racist fans, blah, 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 blah. You have to ask some follow-up questions. I'm not judging the dude. I don't know him. I don't care. I don't have a subscription to the paper. You just read that to me because I'm an invalid and I don't know how to read. And I'm not going to spend $14 a month to read the paper. But speaking of, like, what changed between Better Off Dead and now, where it was 20 papers for $2 and now you got to pay $15 for the paper? Whatever, $2. It's a Better Off Dead reference, sorry. One of my favorite movies. Sorry, have you seen Better Off Dead?
I have, yes.
Then good.
I just didn't expect the paper cost reference.
But that's what it is. It costs $2 for 20 papers. That's 4 weeks. That's 20 papers. That's $2. $15 to read the online version of the newspaper? I guess
my point on this story is simply that, like, Ali Marmol has nothing to gain from saying this, and so that's my big thing, is that I don't think there's anything for him to gain from this, especially because the reaction to it has been just as heavy on the people who are questioning, well, explain it then. Tell me, I want more before I believe you, or you're just lying, with the people who have been like, well, that's obviously horrible. How the hell does that keep happening? I just don't think he's gained anything. He hasn't gained any sympathy from people. I don't think he would have thought to do it in the first place. The angle of why would I trump it up and lie about it?
I don't even don't think he's lying per se,
or just
but
even misrepresenting it. It's just he was asked a question and he gave his answer, and the simple fact of Ali Marmol hearing racist things said to him at the ballpark is simply that for me is not a surprising bridge to cross or a wall to clear. That sounds pretty. I expect that. I'm not surprised by that. Based on what we get on our text line about Marmol and Mosaic, I'm not surprised by that.
Well, you also get drunk people at ball games. People say dumb stuff, but I feel like if someone were throwing out egregious slurs, like awful slurs at somebody, that somebody, dude, people get kicked out of ball games. Like we were talking about Russ Westbrook earlier during the commercial. Russ Westbrook gets people thrown out of games for saying he sucks. Just typical sports fan stuff. Like, you suck, Russ. He'll point them and get them kicked out. So you mean to tell me that if the manager of a baseball team is getting thrown heavy, hardcore slurs, A, no one else hears it and says, what the F, dude? And two, that, it's just now, I don't know. That's where, look, I am not saying he's a liar because I don't know. Is it possible that it happened? Totally possible. Like, people say dumb stuff at baseball games. It's just weird. It's a strange thing. Basically, my biggest issue is if you're going to say that and it's going to impact the way a fan base looks, I need more follow-up questions to that. That's all. Like, it can't just be as simple as people said racist stuff to me. Well, that's it. It happened. Ask more questions. The problem is I don't believe people ask enough questions. That's literally all the job is. The job description of media people is just to ask questions. Continue to ask questions until you get an answer. Right? Am I wrong there? Like, if someone said something racist to me, are you not allowed to ask a follow-up? Because, look, all I'm saying is there have been times that people have said racist things have happened, and as it turned out, they lied about it. That has happened. Or people misinterpret things. Do you remember a story a couple years ago where a visiting player at a game in Colorado said that there was a guy behind home plate yelling the N-word? Do you remember this story? And it was a huge story. It's all over. As it turns out, the guy was actually yelling to try to get the attention of the dinosaur mascot whose name is Dinger. So it was like, Dinger! He's trying to get the dinosaur.
I do remember this, yeah.
So, but everybody was like, he said the N-word. And without even questioning things, it was just, this racist, he's got to be kicked out. So my point is, things are misinterpreted sometimes. Things people say, now there are times people legitimately say offensive things. But that's all I'm asking is I would like some more questions. That's all. I know there are going to be people that are like, oh, you POS. Just ask questions. That's the job of media people. Ask questions.
So if the follow-up question was, when did this happen? And the answer is, it's happened a number of times here and there across the last 3 years.
Is there a specific one that you remember that was more biting than others? Do you recall, you're not going to remember the date of these things, but how often does it happen? I would follow up and I'd say, can you tell me what was said? These are all fair questions to ask. My problem with media people is certain things they just accept on face, and then other things they'll dig really deep into. I think you should dig really deep into everything and not just accept everything on its face. I'm a person that likes to, dig deep and get answers to things. On a much lower scale, when I was in Houston, for some reason, my boss used to send me into the locker room to get interviews with visiting players because I asked questions. The hard part is I was always hammered when I did it, but it also made for very freewheeling because, hey, I'll ask whatever. And this guy, what's his name? Nickname is Pot Roast. Defensive lineman. He was in Jacksonville at the time.
Oh, God.
Oh, how am I drawing a blank on his name?
Marcus Stroud?
No, it was, what the hell? It doesn't matter. So the guy is in the locker room. I'm hammered interviewing him, because I'm a pro. And I go, Terrence Knighton, Pot Roast.
God dang it.
So you're okay.
Man, I couldn't.
You know what? It's okay. Even God makes mistakes. There are erasers on pencils, Rockio. So you're okay. You're going to punch yourself during the break. I'm so stupid. But anyway, so Terrence Knighton says the Texans are a dirty football team. And I could have just left that on its surface. But when he says they're a dirty team, I followed that up with 11 questions in a row about how dirty the Texans are. And then it ends up being a bigger story, and it's all over Pro Football Talk and all that. Point being is, and again, that's on a much different level, but you ask these questions. I think media people pick and choose because they have their own narratives and their own beliefs about things, and they pick and choose which stories they're going to dig deeper on and which things they're going to accept on face value. And that's an overall media thing because we all have biases. And that's reality. Humans have biases. That's why I don't trust news outlets for anything, because emotion plays a giant factor in everything you do. That's why I just have a great distrust. But if I just feel like this would have been out there at some point, or somebody would have heard something. If it's happened, as he put it, more times than you would think. You mean to tell me not once? Did anybody hear this and step up and try to throw hands with somebody? Nobody got kicked out of a ball game? Because that certainly would have been news. I don't know, man. It's a weird story to me. It's kind of like a flippant thing, and I don't know. I don't like when essentially something is said that makes an entire group of people look bad, and there's zero proof behind it. That's all. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, all right, we'll wrap it up after this. 101 ESPN. All right, wrapping things up. BK and Ferrari will be in here momentarily. Productive little day today. Is there any text or two you want to get in here before we say goodbye to the kids? Anything that stands out?
They're pretty mad about the Cardinals. There were 3 or 4 texts here who said, "Hey, listen, they're on a winning streak. Why are you being so negative?"
I'm not going to throw a parade or something. Like, good. Like, I don't know. That's just not how I operate. You know, I am a what you would call a pessimist. Am I a nihilist? A realist? I'm some sort of ist. And I'm a negative-ist of some sort. I don't know what that is, but anyway. All right, I'll be back tomorrow, so will Rock. BK and Ferrario coming up next. We'll see you guys later.